Yast XXII. This Yast is a description of the fate that attends the soul of the righteous, verse 1 through 18, and the soul of the wicked, 19 through 37, after death. They spend the first 3 nights. The saddest are Sirozahs. Among the highest enjoyments are pains. They are then met by their own conscience in the shape of a beautiful heavenly maiden or fiendish old woman, and are brought in 4 steps to the heaven, or down to the hell, through the 3 paradises of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, are the 3 hells of evil thought, evil word, and evil deed. There they are praised and glorified by Ahura, are rebuked and insulted by Engra'Ma'inu, and fed with ambrosia or poison. And similar developments are to be found in Yast 24, 53 to 65, Arda Vivraf 17, Mino Kired 2, 123 to 194. Part 1 is verses 1 through 18. 1. Zarathustra asked Ahura Mazda, O Ahura Mazda, most beneficent spirit, maker of the material world, thou Holy One, when one of the faithful departs this life, where does his soul abide on that night? Ahura Mazda answered, 2. It takes its seat near the head, singing the Usta Va'ete Gatha, and proclaiming happiness. Happy is he, happy is the man, wherever he be, to whom Ahura Mazda gives the full accomplishment of his wishes. On that night his soul tastes as much pleasure as the whole of the living world can taste. 3. On the second night, where does his soul abide? 4. Ahura Mazda answered, it takes its seat near the head, singing the Usta Va'ete Gatha, and proclaiming happiness. Happy is he, happy the man, whoever he be, to whom Ahura Mazda gives the full accomplishment of his wishes. On that night his soul tastes as much a pleasure as the whole of the living world can taste. 5. On the third night, where does his soul abide? 6. Ahura Mazda answered, it takes its seat near the head, singing the Usta Va'ete Gatha, and proclaiming happiness. Happy is he, happy is the man, whoever he be, to whom Ahura Mazda gives the full accomplishment of his wishes. On that night his soul tastes as much a pleasure as the whole of the living world can taste. 7. At the end of the third night, when the dawn appears, it seems to the soul of the faithful one as if it were brought amidst plants and scents. It seems as if a wind were blowing from the region of the south, from the regions of the south, a sweet-scented wind, sweeter scented than any other wind in the world. 8. And it seems to the soul of the faithful one as if it were inhaling that wind with the nostrils. And he thinks, whence does that wind blow? The sweetest scented wind I ever inhaled with my nostrils. 9. And it seems to him as if his own conscience were advancing to him in that wind, in the shape of a maiden, fair, bright, white-armed, strong, tall-formed, high-standing, thick-breasted, beautiful body, noble, of glorious seed, of the size of a maid in her 15th year, as fair as the fairest things in the world. 10. And the soul of the faithful one addressed her, asking, what maid art thou, who art the fairest maid I've ever seen? 11. And she, being his own conscience, answers him, O thou youth of good thought, good words, and good deeds, of good religion, I am thy own conscience. Everybody did love thee for that greatness, goodness, fairness, sweet-scented victorious strength, and freedom from sorrow, in which thou dost appear to me. 12. And so thou, O youth of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, of good religion, didst love me for that greatness, goodness, fairness, sweet-scented victorious strength, and freedom from sorrow, in which I appear to thee. 13. When thou wouldst see a man making derision and deeds of idolatry, or rejecting the poor, and shutting his door, then thou wouldst sit singing gathas and worshipping the good waters, and Atar, the son of Ahura Mazda, and rejoicing the faithful that would come from near or afar. And 15 was considered ideal age, and they're respecting their, like, maintaining the purity of the fire and the water and the earth, and the air and that sort of thing is important things. So it wasn't that they were treating them as gods, it was that their worship did not involve principles of interaction with these things. 14. I was lovely, and thou madest me still lovelier. I was fair, and thou madest me still fairer. I was desirable, and thou madest me still more desirable. I was sitting in a forward place, and thou madest me sit in the foremost place. Through this good thought, through this good speech, through this good deed of thine, and so henceforth, men worship me for my having long sacrificed unto and conversed with Ahura Mazda. 15. The first step that the soul of the faithful man made placed him in the good thought paradise. The second step that the soul of the faithful man made placed him in the good word paradise. The third step that the soul of the faithful made placed him in the good deed paradise. The fourth step of that soul that the faithful man made placed him in the endless lights. So, good thought, good word, good deed, and the good religion. And remember, in India, there's this motif too, of the person who 3 steps, and all the material worlds are taken away. But there's also, 3 aspects of oneself. But and the 4th step is upon you. 16. Then one of the faithful who had departed before him asked him, saying, How didst thou depart this life, thou holy man? How didst thou come, thou holy man, from the abodes full of cattle, and full of the wishes and enjoyments of love, from the material world into the world of the spirit, from the decaying world into the undecaying one? How long did thy felicity last? 17. And Ahura Mazda answered, Ask him not what thou askest him, who has just gone the dreary way, full of fear and distress, where the body and the soul part from one another. 18. Let him eat of the food brought to him, of the oil of Zaremia. This is the food for the youth of good thoughts, of good words, of good deeds, of good religion. After he has departed this life, this is the food for the holy woman, rich in good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, well principled and obedient to her husband, after she has departed this life. And let me remind you, when it comes to obedience of the husband or anybody else, the obedience is first to God. Only in Christianity is it not qualified like that, and very explicitly pointed out, even in wickedness you obey the husband and the slave master, and that's Pauline Christianity. I guess there's other paths that include that. I just can't think of anything in my library or anything that I've read that's coming to mind. Part 2 is 19 through 42. 19. Zarathustra asks Ahura Mazda, O Ahura Mazda, most beneficent spirit, maker of the material world, thou holy one, when one of the wicked perishes, where does his soul abide on that night? 20. Ahura Mazda answered, It rushes and sits near the skull, singing the Kima Gatha, O holy Zarathustra. To what land shall I turn, O Ahura Mazda? To whom shall I go? with praying. And the Mazda Yasna Zarathustra tradition makes clear that the vast, vast majority of what there is gone forever, really. Well, maybe not. Maybe they'll dig up something someday, but praying. On that night, his soul tastes as much as suffering as the whole of the living world can taste. 21. On that second night, where does his soul abide? 22. Ahura Mazda answered, it rushes and sits near the skull, singing the Kima Gatha, O holy Zarathustra. To what land shall I turn, O Ahura Mazda? To whom shall I go with praying? On that night his soul tastes as much of suffering as the whole of the living world can taste. On the third night, where does his soul abide? It's verse 23. 24. Ahura Mazda answered, it rushes and sits near the skull, singing the Kima Gatha, O holy Zarathustra. To what land shall I turn, O Ahura Mazda? To whom shall I go with praying? On that night his soul tastes as much of suffering as the whole of the living world can taste. 25. At the end of the third night, O holy Zarathustra, when the dawn appears, it seems as the soul of the faithless one, as if it were brought amidst snow and stench, as if a wind were blowing from the region of the north, from the regions of the north, a foul-scented wind, the foulest scented of all the winds in the world. 26 to 32. And it seems to the soul of the wicked man as if it were inhaling that wind with the nostrils, and he thinks, whence does that wind blow, the foulest scented wind that I ever inhaled with my nostrils? Now there's bigger verses of that, but just like the Quran and some other texts, the division is not uniform as to what we would just predict with our logic, per se, but that doesn't mean it's illogical. 33. The first step that the soul of the wicked man made laid him in the evil thought hell. The second step that the soul of the wicked man made laid him in the evil word hell. The third step that the soul of the wicked man made laid him in the evil deed hell. The fourth step that the soul of the wicked man made laid him in the endless darkness. 34. Then one of the wicked who departed before him addressed him, saying, how didst thou perish, O wicked man? How didst thou come, O fiend, from the abodes full of cattle, and full of the wishes and enjoyments of love, from the material world unto the world of the spirit, from the decaying world into undecaying one? How long did thy suffering last? 35. Ingra Ma'inu, the lying one, said, ask him not what thou askest him, who was just gone the dreary way, full of fear and distress, were the body and the soul part from one another. 36. Let him eat of the food brought unto him, a poisonous stench. This is the food after he is perished, for the youth of the evil thoughts, evil words, evil deeds, evil religion. After he is perished, this is the food of the fiendish woman, rich in evil thoughts, evil words, and evil deeds, evil religion, ill-principled, and disobedient to her husband. 37. We worship the Favasha of the holy man, whose name is Asmo Havanvant. Then I will worship the Favashas of the other holy ones, who are strong of faith. 38. We worship the memory of Ahura Mazda to keep the holy word. We worship the understanding of Ahura Mazda to study the holy word. We worship the tongue of Ahura Mazda to speak forth the holy word. We worship the mountain that gives understanding, that preserves understanding. We worship it by day and by night, with offerings of libations well accepted. 39. O Maker, how do the souls of the dead, the Favashas of the holy ones, manifest themselves? 40. Ahura Mazda answered, they manifest themselves from goodness, a spirit, and excellence of mind. 41. Then towards the dawning of the dawn, that bird, Parodars, that bird, Kurekto Dasu, hears the voice of the fire. 42. Here the fiendish Bush Yasta, the long-handed, rushes from the region of the north, from the regions of the north, speaking thus, lying thus. Sleep on, men, sleep on, O sinners, sleep on and live in sin. And remember, in the Islamic vision, they have that idea too about the people who sleep, but the people who sleep through their, through the prayers and all that. So, regarding the notes in 41, we have the Pahlavi translation of the fragment, has 14 through 16 of the Atash Nyayis, and then 18 through 19 of Vendidad 18. Therefore, the whole passage is to be restored as follows. Attar looks at the hands of all those who pass by. What does the friend bring to his friend? And if that passerby brings him wood, holily brought, or bundles of berisma, holily tied up, then Attar will bless him thus. May herds of oxen grow for thee. In the first part of the night, Fire, the son of Ahura Mazda, not literally taking this son of stuff, but calls the master of the house for help, saying, Up, arise, thou master of the house, and so on. And then towards the dawning of the day. And he who has knowledge made, or he who has the knowledge of what is made, Kartak Dan Ishin. The other name is Parodars, or he who foresees. And one of the things that we... one last note here. One of the things we see in the biblical account is what I'm thinking of. Okay, no, I'll share this first. Here again, a large passage is omitted. Yeah, Kareto Dasu. It can only be partly supplied from the Pahlavi translation. The words in brackets refer to the Zen text lost to us. Then he flaps his wings and flips his voice, saying, Arise, O men, and also women, grown-up people, children, etc. Put on, woe your girdle and shirt. Wash your hands, put your girdle around your body, go and give food to the cattle, and recite aloud the 5 holy gathas of Spitama Zarathustra. Hear the fiendish Bushyasta, and then the Pahlavi translation has, never care for the 3 excellent things, good thoughts, good words, good deeds. So we have commentary of some of these things that becomes as if it's, part of the text. And we see in the Bible, particularly when you get to the Christian section, you really see, there's parts where you see deliberate changes and stuff made in the Jewish section of the Bible, but the Christian section, you have stuff in the margins. You have chapters books go from 19 chapters to 28 or something. All the canonical Gospels started as 19 chapters, by the way. You have words and whole verses added here and there. Stuff was taken away too. Translations are made simplified because of stuff that was done before, rather than directly translating all the stuff. So, verse 40, the excellent of mind, going back a little bit here. When men are instinct, with good spirit and good thoughts. Well, the Quran puts this probably a little bit clearer in terms of we're all put on the good upstanding. Well, and then we can either maintain or build up good beliefs and good deeds, good consciousness, that sort of thing, or we can, let that slip. At least not doing that will take us down a notch. And so the question arises before that, the ones manifesting themselves, well, how do they manifest their assistance? When do they assist their relations and their countrymen? Kithra is of the well accepted. The ones manifest. Apocryphy translation of what we just went over is found in manuscript 33 in the Peri supplement, Persan. One of the first disciples of Zarathustra was Asmo Havanvant. Well, one of the first. Is it the Ali ibn Talib of the Zoroastrian tradition, or is it like Abu Bakr or something of that tradition? And some of this, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, and 42, are thought to be separate fragments, so who knows what was in between that. Let him eat the food of the poisonous stench, 36, relates to Yasna 31:20. He would deceive the Holy One. To him afterwards will be a long weeping in a dark place, bad food, and words of insult. A wicked is that place down, which of your own conscience will bring you through your own deeds. Well, things got to be exacting and just and all that too. So we can't, I know people try to say, well, yeah, okay, fine, God can forgive, but, God's got to be fair. The wind blowing, the foul scent, 26 through 32. Well, you do see that it's broken into 7 sections here, but you don't know exactly unless you see the original. But so there's a development similar to that in 9 through 14 to be supplied here. In the Arda Viraf and the Minnow Kred, the soul of the wicked is met by a horrid old woman who is his own conscience, and in that wind he saw his own religion and deeds as a profligate woman, naked, decayed, gaping, bandy-legged, lean-hipped, and untimely spotted, so that spot was joined to spot, like the most hideous, noxious creatures, Craftstar, most filthy and most stinking. So kind of like that one woman in high school that you kind of stayed away from that was like, people thought she was a lot of fun, but what she put herself through ended up by 25 looking 50 or 60 or maybe dead or something. But perhaps if you're, tactful about seeking your pleasure and stuff, then you won't be broken down like that. Then the wicked soul spoke thus, Who art thou, than whom I never saw any one of the creatures of Harmazd and Akarman uglier, or filthier, or more stinking. Ahura and Ahriman, basically. Ormaz and Ahriman would be the typical form, but verse 10. To him she spoke thus, I'm thy bad actions, O youth of evil thoughts, of evil words, of evil deeds, of evil religion. It is on account of thy will and actions that I am hideous and vile, iniquitous and diseased, rotten and foul-smelling, unfortunate and distressed, as appears to thee. When thou sawest anyone who performed the Yazishan and drone ceremonies, and praise and prayer, and the service of God, and preserved and protected water, and fire, and cattle, and trees, and other good creatures, thou practiced the will of Akarman and the demons, and improper actions. And when thou sawest one who provided hospitable reception, and gave something deservedly in gifts and charity for the advantage of the good and worthy who came from afar, who were from near, thou wast avaricious, and shuttest up thy door. And though I have been unholy, that is, I have been considered bad, I am made more unholy through thee. And though I have been frightful, I am made more frightful through thee. Though I have been more tremulous, I am made more tremulous through thee. Though I am settled in the northern region of the demons, I am settled further north through thee. Through these evil thoughts, through these evil words, through these evil deeds which thou practicest, they curse me a long time, and a long fructification and evil communion of the evil spirit, afterwards that soul of the wicked advance, the first footsteps on Dush Humat, the place of evil thoughts, etc. And the Gatha of lamenting begins with the word Kam. So, Kam Neme Zum. To what land shall I return? And perhaps there was a longer formula for that. You know, we see that mentioned in verse 20 and 22 and 23. Zeremeya is the spring, the word translated oil. Ra'agna in Persian might be better translated butter. The milk made in the middle of the spring was said to be the best. Now, remember, not only Milky Way related myths, but there's other churning myths in what people call Hinduism. So, the seat of the Gorothman is, okay, let's go a little further here. The endless lights. The Hatharsht paradise is the good deed paradise. The good word paradise is the hooked paradise. The good thought paradise is the Humat paradise. And one of the things along the way is, to rejoice the almsgiving to the poor Mazda Yasnians, the Asho Dad. And you don't want to be those shutting the door to the poor. Urva o Streya, or Urdvar Babaek Kart, says the Pahlavi commentary. A Igshan Baba Bara Asrunast. Star to tie, as in Frastaretem Parasma. And the Pahlavi commentary has a gloss. He would not give his friends what they begged for. And we have a mention of holy things being derided. You don't want to take part in that, of course. And the holy steed, the things of the, we're humans. And yes, we're bestowed things, but it's not for us to take things from the other spiritual beings, you could say. I mean, that's not to say that we can't, the offerings made to this, the physical world's what's going to be processing the offerings. So the food and drink offerings, obviously people can eat and drink of that. I mean, you don't necessarily get on the ground and lick up the milk offerings off the rocks or something. I guess some people might, but Thra Asta in Pahlavi is Ro Isman. And we're talking about the seeing and the perceiving. And so the end is the Astra. Oisman. Yeah, okay, we have that.